It's finally Friday. Thanks for joining us today for our noon forecast. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and yes, you finally made it to the end of the work week, which had a break from storms in the very middle of the week. However, we are right back into the swing of things now, expecting storms from today all the way through the weekend. So all hazards are on deck for today. We have that tornado threat, a high wind threat, and a large hail threat, all in different, very specific areas of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and portions of Texas. So we'll talk about those regions here in just a few minutes. Some of the biggest threats that are on deck today will be that large hail threat. It's isolated, but it goes anywhere from Oklahoma to Texas to Kansas to Colorado. And we are stuck in this stormy weather pattern. So very similar to the forecast that you're going to see today. You're going to see that tomorrow and on Sunday and on Monday. The plains are stuck in this pattern, but we're every now and then going to throw in some of those Gulf states as well. So pay attention to this forecast here. We're going to go through day by day what we're expecting as we head into the weekend. And I can see your questions over here on the side of the screen, so we appreciate people jumping on. We see some people on YouTube right now. We've got a few Facebook as well, so we can see your questions on the side of the screen. Put where you're watching from and any of those weather questions as well. Alrighty, let's get into it. So today, that big hail risk mainly on the far western side of this risk. You go farther to the east, you get into that wind risk, okay? Tomorrow, we are expecting another round of storms anywhere from Denver to Oklahoma City and even down to the north of Dallas. But remember, whenever I said that we will throw in some of these Gulf states every now and then, that's exactly what we see as we head into the later portion of Saturday. As we head into Sunday, another large hail risk anywhere from Oklahoma City down to Dallas, out to Amarillo and Abilene, Texas as well. And then as we head into Monday, yes, another round of storms, and that really does target the Dallas and Austin areas. I know it's a holiday weekend, but you cannot take a break from watching the storm risk. We do have a chance for storms as we go into the next few days. So put it on your calendar, just keep an eye on the forecasts into the next few days. Hey, by the way, we are giving away a drone. It's a $650 prize, so it retails for $650. We'll give it to you for free. Here's how to enter. You record a video, or you can write a post about how HailTrace has helped your company succeed. Any of these platforms is another entry. So you do one on YouTube, that's an entry. You do one on Facebook, that's another entry. Here's what you have to do. Tag HailTrace and then use the hashtag 15 years of HailTrace. That's 15 years of HailTrace. And that's all because of our 15-year anniversary this year. We have been helping people for the past 15 years, and we are so proud to do so that we want to give back to you in the form of a drone that has a 4K camera on it and a gimbal stabilization and all kinds of nifty things that you can use in your day-to-day work. So head over to our Facebook pages, leave that post, and you'll be entered into the drawing. Alrighty, let's get into what we saw yesterday. This time yesterday, we had storms across the state. We had a few isolated storms that produced some decent-sized hailstones, mainly in the southern portion of the state. Really, as we headed into the afternoon and evening hours, it was the Wichita Falls to Denton area that had the most hailstorms and even the biggest hailstones as well. We nailed this forecast yesterday. It's always a good thing whenever your meteorologist is right. The only thing that surprised us were some of these storms down I-35 just to the north of San Antonio and near the Austin area. We had a pretty decent hailer north of San Antonio yesterday evening, but it fizzled out before it even got to the city. So I'm not even quite sure that San Antonio got any sufficient rain. However, right now, you can see that those storms are hanging out in the northern side of Oklahoma. We can zoom down into those storms right now. Maybe a little bit of hail from this, but nothing severe. So we're not talking about even anything the size of a quarter, some smaller stones in this area. We're talking about what we like to call pocket change hail. That means your dimes, your nickels, your pennies, hailstones in this area. Other than that, let's see. Zooming out, I don't see anything severe at the moment. Well, that'll change later today, so let's get into that forecast here. We do have a warm front setting up out to the west. That's hugging the Oklahoma and Texas panhandle all the way up the state line from Colorado to Kansas. Right now, we're pretty dry across the East Coast. We've got some showers from some locked-in moisture from a low-pressure system hanging out in the northeast. There's your storms up in the northern side of Oklahoma, and then we've got a few more showers as we stretch up the plains here. If you'll notice, something that we talk about quite often are your ridges and your troughs. So you've got a trough on the west coast right now. Oftentimes that trough is where we see the most active weather. However, occasionally, just like how you throw a stone into a pond and then it sends ripples out across the pond, you can often see some short waves. That's what we call essentially a ripple that's going through the plains right now, and that is causing storms for today. So we have a pretty good chance for large hail today. Watch these colors as we want the oranges and reds for large hail. Watch as that starts to mix in, mainly out in the Oklahoma and Texas panhandle, and then all the way up the state line from Colorado to Kansas into Nebraska. We really do have some of those deeper oranges and reds starting to mix in, indicating large hailstones in this area. Now, tomorrow, we have another risk for large hail as well. I told you that we're really targeting Oklahoma City on Saturday, Oklahoma City and then places to the west on Saturday, once again threatening that large hailstone risk. Now, today, we'll talk about today, then we'll talk about tomorrow next. Today, we do have that baseball-sized hail risk, and we'll talk about where. Out to the west of Oklahoma City, out to the west of Wichita. So this is really targeting the western side of Kansas, all the way down into the western side of Oklahoma, and then into the Texas panhandle. Let's really talk about where we're expecting these storms today. Wichita, I give you a pretty low risk for large hail today. It's just, I think that storms are going to fizzle out by the time they get to Wichita. Now, you may get some high wind, and we'll talk about that. You go up into Nebraska, I think that you have a level 2 on a scale of 5. Colby has one of the best chances for large hail today. You're going to see some supercells out on the western side of Kansas and in Oklahoma, and that is what's going to produce these large hailstones. Now, it may be isolated at first, but it's going to become more widespread as we head into the evening hours. Lubbock, also in the high risk for up to golf ball size hail, and Midland, Texas, we're talking about a level 2 on a scale of 5 for storms in Midland, Texas. Now, what this means, and I'll kind of explain, very similar to Oklahoma City, we have a level 2 on a scale of 5. If we saw this event 5 times, 2 of those times you'd get a storm in Midland. It's not going to be every time, but right under half of the time you'll get a storm in this area. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we expected to see storms in Dallas or the Dallas area, and really they just stayed to the north and west of Dallas, and they didn't ever come into Dallas itself. Well, we gave it a level 2 on a scale of 5. So 2 of those times we'll get storms, 3 of those times, no storms at all. That's how we read this risk scale here. So let's move on to some of your other threats for today. We have a wind forecast here. 65 to 75 mile per hour winds are possible for most of this area. However, we have one pocket in the northern and central and northeastern side of Oklahoma. That is where we could see some stronger winds up to about 75 to potentially 80 miles an hour. Now, I think we're stretching it a little bit going into that 80 mile per hour zone. So I kept this risk in a low level 1 and then a level 2 here in Oklahoma City. Are those high winds possible? Yes. Do I expect a 100% chance of getting those high winds here? No, I would say it's a pretty low chance, but it's still possible. Alrighty, as we move into your tornado forecast here, there's one place in particular that we're expecting several tornadoes, and that would be in northeastern Colorado. Colby will be an area that we are watching for several tornadoes as well, but as you head down into Oklahoma City, it's just a level 1 risk down here. Still something to be very aware of. This includes Tulsa, Stillwater, Guthrie, all places out in eastern Oklahoma as well. So still something to be aware of. That's a level 1 on a scale of 5, and then we've got that level 2 highlighted in yellow for northeastern Colorado. Now, moving on to your timeline here, this will mainly be an evening to late night storm system. You're not going to see these storms pop up until the afternoon, so we're talking about potentially 3, 4, maybe 5 o'clock whenever these storms initially fire. I'm going to show you 2 different models here. The HRRR model, HRRR, is what you see right now. And then we're going to show you the NAM next. And I'm going to show you how these differ and how conditional this risk is. We're expecting several cells to form. However, the coverage is the question here. How many cells do we fill in this area in between Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas? So we definitely think that we're going to get these cells up in northeastern Colorado and in Nebraska. That's why we have a higher risk up there for today. But one model wants to fill in these storms down in Oklahoma and Texas, one model does not. So the HRRR is going a little bit more conservative here, bringing in that more widespread coverage into the early morning hours tomorrow. So this is whenever we could see some high wind out there, maybe some smaller hail. Then NAM, however, really wants to bring in more widespread coverage with a line of storms all the way down I-40 there. Watch as we expect these storms to come into the panhandle of Texas and into the western side of Oklahoma. So there's some conflict with the outlook of these models here. It makes for a very difficult forecast, but what we look at here is the potential for these storms to come into these cities, and that's what we just explained to you on your wind, hail, and tornado threats. Now, if these storms cross into I-35, a little bit more of a populated area, it will be pretty late tonight. My timeline for Oklahoma City stretches from the afternoon into the late night hours. I have from 4, I would stretch this a little bit more. I know it says 8 o'clock here. I would stretch this into about 11 or midnight tonight. So it could be a very late night storm. Let's go all the way down into Oklahoma City here. I think I'm using the NAM model here, showing you that we may have storms around this area potentially coming into the city. So there's your city forecast for Oklahoma City. We actually do this forecast for all different cities, Wichita, Dallas, Amarillo. So comment where you're watching from today, and I'm usually pretty good about getting back in the comments after the forecast is over and answering any of the questions that you have with your specific city. Your significant hail model for tomorrow looks pretty impressive across Oklahoma. Anytime that we see these reds starting to creep in to your significant hail model here, we know that we're expecting some larger hailstones. So yes, once again for tomorrow, I would expect tennis ball, baseball size hail potential here in Oklahoma. We do have a slight risk here, so this is your Storm Prediction Center SPC outlook here. It's a level 2 on a scale of 5, anywhere from the western side of Texas all the way down into your Gulf states. And we stay in this very active, I called it a stuck pattern here, because we target once again the exact same area for storms not only on Saturday but also on Sunday. And then on Monday we go down a little bit farther to the south into Dallas and Austin, Texas. Again, I know it is lake season. A lot of people getting out there enjoying your holidays, but I want you to be very aware. Do not get caught off guard enjoying your holiday festivities whenever a storm arrives. So there's your outlook for the weekend. Here's your outlook a little bit farther into next week. Can you believe that we are already in the end of May? We're talking about May 26th here. We've got a little ridge moving in. That could keep our pattern pretty active as we head into the end of this month as well. If we look at our outlook, okay, don't forget about the giveaway here. Oh, I didn't put the outlooks on here. You know what? I do want to see those. So I'm going to just like pull an audible here, and I'm going to show you your precip outlook for the next 6 to 10 days. And then I'm also going to bring in your temperature as well. So what you're looking at here in just a minute, and again, I told you I'm doing this on the fly, so it's going to take me just a minute here to get this pulled up. What you're looking at is your temperature and your precip outlooks for the next 6 to 10 days. So give me just a minute here. While I do this, if you guys have any questions or comments, stick those in the comments section. Alrighty, told you I'd get it up. There we go. May 28th through June 1st. It looks like temperatures are going to be a little bit below average for this time of the year. So instead of being extremely hot, we'll just be moderately hot in the central to eastern portion of the U.S. Meanwhile, out to the west, we have some really warm temperatures that are moving in for you all. Now here's the thing with those temperatures, those warm temperatures out to the west, we're also going to have some lower precip in this area, or about average, so we could have some fire danger out in the northwestern portion of the U.S. And we could have a pretty good potential for some active weather down in the southern portion of the U.S. as well. So as I told you, we've got a trough moving in that could keep our pattern pretty active. We've got this moisture as well, which will also increase the activity here. And that is your forecast today. Let's see if we have any specific questions that I can answer before we hop off of here. Ryan is asking, how is Denver looking for a hail chance this weekend? You know what, Ryan? I'm glad that you asked before I hopped off of here, because I can show you your outlook for Denver here. We are actually in an outlook, and I know that Denver hasn't gotten a significant storm this year, so I'm sure that you guys are really looking keeping an eye on that. Hang on one second, and I'll pull that up for you. Alrighty, here you go. So Denver is out of the storm risk for tomorrow. Excuse me. Denver is out of the storm risk for today. However, in the storm risk for tomorrow, it's a marginal risk, but you know, something that we talked about yesterday, and we actually have a podcast coming out on this in a few weeks, we cannot underestimate these marginal risks because things will surprise you, especially in places like Denver. You get a marginal risk, especially for the potential for hail that we see this time of the year. I would take it pretty seriously because you could get just a random rogue storm in there, and that could absolutely bring in some hail to Denver. Let's actually take a look at your hail model here. So for today, I wouldn't expect a storm for today. However, tomorrow you do have a pretty good chance for some decent hail that targets right past the Rockies and into some more populated areas like Denver, right along I-25 there, into places like Colorado Springs as well. While a lot of people will focus their attention down on these storms here in Oklahoma, I wouldn't rule out a random hailstorm or two in Denver. However, because it is so isolated, I would keep that at a level 1 risk for tomorrow. So great question. We appreciate you putting your questions in the comments section there. Alrighty, and that's your forecast for today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox. We'll probably be back on either this evening or tomorrow with an updated forecast or covering storms live for you. So hit that follow button. Follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And if you're interested in a wind, hail, or tornado map, our meteorologists have been working overtime here lately, and they have all of those maps for you available right now at hailtrace.com. So give us a call to get set up with a subscription, 855-334-4245, or info@hailtrace.com. You can even head over to our website for more information, hailtrace.com. All right, thanks for joining us on this Friday. We'll see you back here in a few hours.